Welcome back to the Bourbon Note, everybody. I'm Ben. I got a sample on the bar from my friends Troy and Laura over at Baker Drinks. Let's get into it. So on the bar tonight, I've got, bam, this is a leftover from the Trash Palette Challenge. This is Elmer T. Lee. And this is actually from, I think, a few months ago now. I've been wanting to do a review of this whiskey because I don't have a bottle of it. And this was part of the blind sample set that they sent to me for the Trash Palette Challenge when I went up against them. Not this recent one where I went up against Brian and Deb from Buffalo Bourbon Enthusiasts, which was a great time as well. So anyway, yeah, so this was sent to me as part of a blind flight, and I saved the rest of it just to do a review of it. Because this one, I think I'm going to catch a lot of hate for this and a lot of thumbs up for this. So this is kind of a right down the middle opinion, but this one for me has just been such a bummer every time I've had it. I've only had a couple of them and they are single barrels. And so, you know, maybe they vary quite a bit, but considering that this one, you know, sells for $200, $250 online, and I know that's not the whiskey's fault. And, you know, most Buffalo Trace products, unfortunately, have that, you know, that secondary market thing going on. But I feel like this is one of those ones that really got caught up in the, it's made by Buffalo Trace, therefore it's got to be amazing, and we, you know, pay ridiculous prices for it. Because every time I've had it, I've been profoundly underwhelmed, including this sample. So it's been a few months. Let's get into nosing and tasting this thing. And I don't want to come on here and just be the guy who, you know, trashes a Buffalo Trace product, because to be honest, I think that gets a little bit old. And, you know, frankly, I really like most Buffalo Trace products. There's only a couple that I've really been super let down by, because I try not to let the hype get too much in the way, but, you know, every once in a while, you just get let down. And this one, it's not that it's a bad bourbon, it's just that it was, you know, underwhelming. Anyway, enough rambling. On the nose, nice little spice. It's a little thin. I think it's 90 proof. I know they make a 100 proof version of it. I mean, I'm assuming this is the standard one at 90. It's got kind of a nice black pepper spice to it. And it's a little oaky, but it just comes across as fairly basic on the nose. Let's get into the palate, see what happens. Cheers. That is every bit as disappointing as I remember it being. That is just such a bummer. I don't even think this one is a particularly good whiskey, to be perfectly honest. I said at the beginning that it's not really bad, it's just disappointing. I wouldn't say it's a bad whiskey, but it's definitely, I don't think it's good. And I don't know if it's just I've gotten a couple of bad single barrels. I've never owned a bottle, but I've had some samples. Back when Greg was on the show, he and I did a review of Elmer T. Lee, and both of us had never had it before, and we were both extremely underwhelmed and kind of said the same thing. The one thing I've always said about Elmer T. Lee is just save your money and go get a Evan Williams 1783 for $20. And to me, it's every bit the same point. To be honest, I would probably like the Evan Williams better. I'd love to do these blind. I must save a little bit of this to put this in a blind flight. Then again, who knows? In blinds, you never know what can happen. But yeah, on that first sip, it comes across as very thin, like even for 90 proof. Like I'm a big fan of Eagle Rare at 90 proof, and I don't get that off of that bottle. But this one, this comes across as borderline like a budget bourbon. And I almost am hesitant to say that because I feel like that's insulting to budget bourbons. Like I consider Old Forester 100 to be a budget bourbon, and it just claps cheeks on this one, for sure. For me anyway. So again, I think I'm gonna have my audience divided on this one, but let's go in for another sip here. I don't get it. I don't get it at all. But you know, I mean, I don't get it about Blanton's either, but I think Blanton's is definitely better than this. But And the reason I compared to Blanton's because they're both mash bill too, and both very, very well overhyped. But this is just so basic. Like, there's just nothing going on here. And I know some people really like this. I personally don't get it. I will be very interested in doing a blind with this, so I will save. They were kind enough to send 2-ounce samples, so I got to have some in the live flight that night, do this review, and then have, you know, enough to definitely get a blind flight going. So thank you again, Troy and Laura, for having me on and sending the samples. But yeah, this thing is just... I said one time that I think my most disappointing allocated, like overhyped bottle, and again, I know it's not the whiskey's fault. Whenever I say overhyped, I get that that's just a thing that, you know, the bourbon world has kind of created, and it shouldn't be a reflection on the whiskey itself. And so just looking at this as a whiskey, I don't think it's that great. I think there are $20 bourbons out there that I would rather drink than this. But then when you do add the hype, because I think it is something worth talking about, because to me, I think it's unfortunate that there are people paying $250 for this online. It's just, I don't know. Let's have the last sip here and finish it off before our closing thoughts. Yeah, I think the retail on this is supposed to be like $50. Honestly, I wouldn't pay that for it. Now, as somebody who gets on the internet and yaps about bourbon and likes to have a lot of bottles available to do things like flights and stuff, if I saw it at $50, I would pick it up for that purpose. Just because if I saw it at $50, I'm probably not going to get a chance to get it again. And sometimes I like having those bottles on the bar that I maybe don't particularly love or even like all that much. That being said, if this is like a $20 bourbon, fine. But even at the $50 price point, I would pick it up if I had the opportunity, considering how hard it is to find just for that purpose. But if this was a shelfer bottle that was always available for $50, I would never buy it again. I would absolutely not spend $50 on it. If it was a shelfer bottle for $30, I probably would not buy it again. Because at that point, if I'm just looking for a $30 or even under bottle, just a shelfer bottle, there's a ton of them that I would think of before this one that I like better. So yeah, I don't know. Let me know what you think, I guess. But this is maybe, of all the allocated bourbons. I think I started to say, and then I went off on a tangent, didn't finish my thought. I had said before that my most disappointing allocated bourbon was Weller 12 as far as being overhyped. Surprisingly enough, I've had a sample of that, also courtesy of Troy and Laura, that has actually done pretty well in blinds. So I might have to reconsider my thoughts on that. Now, I don't think it's worth the secondary prices, and I wouldn't pay that for it. But I think I can officially say, of all of the allocated, albeit very overhyped for no good reason bottles, this is definitely the one that it's just like, I don't know. I mean, if people pay the $230 or whatever it goes for one time and get it home, like, wow, that was not worth it. But anybody who buys this more than once, I don't get it. But hey, that's your opinion, and I'm certainly not saying that mine is right and yours is wrong. I'm just saying, you know, as a person reviewing this, I don't get it. It's just very, very, very basic and underwhelming. So let me know in the comments what you guys think of this. Again, I think I'm going to get a little bit of everything on this video. So anyway, this has been Elmer T. Lee, courtesy of my friends Troy and Laura over at Baker Drinks. Please like, comment, and subscribe over at Baker Drinks and right here on the Bourbon Note. I'm Ben. I'll see you on the next one.